They didn't break you. They only made you believe that you were broken. That's the trick, that's the illusion. Because pain, it doesn't mean you've been destroyed. It means something deep inside you was trying to survive. But when the world keeps throwing you down, when people turn cold, walk away, or hurt you, you start to wonder, maybe I really am broken. But ask yourself this, if something inside you was truly shattered, who is it that's still watching it happen? Who is it that feels the pain, but is not the pain? You see, they taught you to confuse feeling pain with being damaged. But you're not damaged. Your awareness, you are the one who sees the brokenness, not the brokenness itself. There's something inside you that's never been touched, never been owned, never been broken. And the moment you remember that, you become free. There's a part of you they can never reach, not with words, not with shame, not with force. Call it soul, call it spirit, call it awareness. It doesn't matter what name you give it, because it existed before you had a name. Carl Jung called it the self. The Hindus called it Atman. The mystics called it the witness. It's the stillness behind your thoughts, the silence. Behind your voice, the part of you that watches but is not moved. Trauma may shake the house, but it doesn't touch the ground the house is built on, and you are the ground. People will try to define you by what's happened to you. They'll say you are your wounds or you'll never be the same. But there's a deeper truth. You are not the wound, you are the one who heals. You are not the mud, you are the diamond buried beneath it. When you understand that, you stop fearing what they might take, because you realize they can't touch the real you. Look at the ones who stood in fire and never fell. Viktor Frankl survived the horrors of Auschwitz, not because his body was strong, but because his mind discovered something unbreakable. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in a cell. They took his time, his family, his freedom, but they never touched his dignity. He walked out of that prison more whole than when he entered. Buddhist monks have been tortured and still sit in silence, not because they feel no pain, but because they've anchored themselves in something deeper than pain. These weren't superhumans. They were people who saw through the illusion. They discovered a layer of being that cannot be harmed. You have that same layer. It's not far, it's just forgotten, but it's always waiting. So why don't we remember? Because from the moment we were born, we were told who we were. You're a good child. You're a bad student. You're too sensitive. You're not enough. Bit by bit, the world built a cage, and then it whispered, "This is who you are." But here's the truth. You were never the cage. You were the sky outside of it. They taught you to measure yourself by achievements, by approval, by how much you could take without breaking. But that was never your truth. That was their system. Power. Structures only work if you believe your power is somewhere outside of you. They convinced you you're weak, so you'd never look for the strength you were born with. But once you see the cage, you can choose to step out of it. And when you do, they lose control over you. There comes a moment in your life when you can't take it anymore. Not because you're too weak, but because something inside you wakes up. It's not a thought, not a belief. It's a knowing, a quiet, powerful knowing that whispers, "I am not this story." That moment changes everything. It's the silence that comes when the mind gives up and something deeper takes over. Eckhart Tolle was on the verge of ending it all, when he suddenly felt peace flood in. Not from the outside, but from deep within. Zen monks call it satori, a sudden awakening beyond words. The Sufis call it fana, the disappearance of the false self. In that moment, you realize you've been carrying pain that doesn't belong to you. Living a life that was scripted by someone else, chasing approval for a version of you that was never real. And then it clicks. They can't break you because they were never holding you in the first place. Pain feels like the enemy. But what if it's the messenger? What if pain doesn't show up to break you, but to wake you? Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Pain breaks the illusion. It shows you what's real. It strips away the roles, the masks, the lies. Jung called it the shadow. the parts of us we push away. But shadow isn't evil, it's truth, waiting to be seen. Joseph Campbell's heroes don't find treasure at the start, they descend into darkness. Only there in the underworld do they find who they really are. So when pain knocks, don't just run, ask it, what are you trying to show me? You may find that the very thing you feared was the key to your freedom. They told you that being loved means being understood, that fitting in means you're okay. But the truth is, you were never meant to be understood by everyone. You came here to wake up, not to please the sleepwalkers, Nietzsche said, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Your awakening will be misunderstood. Your healing will look like rebellion. Your peace will confuse those still trapped in noise, but don't shrink. Your loneliness is not a curse. It's the sign that you're stepping into truth. When the world no longer recognizes you, and it means you're finally becoming yourself. You've been carrying a weight that was never yours. The guilt, planted, the shame, inherited, the fear, taught, but your essence, your true self, that never belonged to them. It is not their words, not their punishment, not their betrayal. It is silence, it is awareness. It is unbreakable. Every time they tried to destroy you, they were swinging at a ghost, a version of you that never existed. Because the real you is not the story, is not the body, is not the name. The real you is the light behind the eyes. They can try to break the mirror, but they'll never touch the light. So remember, they never broke you. They just made you forget what you're made of. Now you remember. What if your pain wasn't random? What if it was designed, not by one person, not by one system, but by a world that profits from your disconnection? From the moment you opened your eyes, the world began whispering in your ear, telling you what to chase, what to fear, who to be. But somewhere deep beneath all that noise, something ancient remains, unmoved, unbreakable, and they know it. So they distract you. They divide you, not with violence, but with stories. Stories that teach you to doubt yourself, to hate yourself, to become someone else entirely. You see, the world doesn't need to chain you if it can convince you to chain yourself. This is not a physical war, it's spiritual, psychological, and most people don't even know it's happening. But once you see it, once you understand what they're really afraid of, you become free in a way they can't control. And that's what they fear the most. Who were you before the world told you who to be? That question might be the most dangerous question of all. Long ago, ancient mystics spoke of something eternal within us. In India, they called it the Atman, the soul beyond birth and death. Hermetic teachings named it the true will, the force that moves the stars and lives inside you. Carl Jung called it the self, the whole of you. Hidden behind your masks, this self isn't shaped by society. It remembers who you are even when you forget. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't beg for approval. It simply is. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. You've been trained to ignore it. You've been taught to believe your worth comes from what you achieve, how you look, what others think. They buried your real self under layers of false identity. The obedient student, the good employee, the perfect child. But that ancient self, it's still there, watching, waiting, and once you stop running, once you stop pretending, you can hear its voice again, soft, steady, unbreakable. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know. You were a seed, so how do they break you? Not by force, by fracture. They divide you from within, piece by piece. They tell you your body isn't right, that your feelings are wrong, that your dreams are unrealistic. They turn you against yourself. Edward Bernays called it engineering consent. It's not about truth, it's about control. Michel Foucault said power isn't always visible. It lives in words, in rules, in the things we stop questioning, every ad you see, every grade you're given, every label you carry. It all sends the same quiet message. You are not enough. You are broken. You need fixing. And when you believe that lie, they don't need to control you. You'll do it yourself. You'll shrink. You'll perform. You'll betray the very core of who you are. But here's the turning point. Once you see the game, it doesn't work anymore. You begin to ask, whose voice is this in my head? Who benefits when I stay small? Who taught me to fear my own power? The moment you ask, you begin to remember and they begin to lose control.